Hello and welcome to another video helping you get the very top grades. This paragraph of writing comes to me from a viewer, Ella Frith. She's given us some writing that will really help me teach this vital skill that's really difficult for students to understand. The reason it's difficult is because Ella is getting really good at writing, but she's not there yet. And the things that she's doing to get good are making her writing worse, but will eventually make it better. That's really frustrating for you. Let's have a look at her paragraph. The entirety of her countenance was encapsulating. Brilliant, we love the alliteration with countenance encapsulating, but the vocabulary is deliberately old-fashioned here. Countenance means face. If you're setting this writing in the past, then calling the face a countenance works brilliantly. But if it's a modern day setting, then countenance just looks like something from the Thesaurus. Then we have the use of the word encapsulating. Well, what does it mean? It means enclosing something as if in a capsule. And is that what Ella means? Well, the examiner's probably thinking, I'm not really sure that's what she means. She probably means captivating. Now, the real problem here is one that's super common in students' writing. She started her writing in the past tense. Actually, that's what most of us do. And it's what most writers do in books. But then you'll notice that by the third sentence, she's moved to the present tense. Writing in the present tense is great because it's immediate, it involves us straight away in the action, or, in this case, the character. But it only works if you start in the present tense, and this lack of control, moving from the past to the present when you shouldn't, is definitely characteristic of writers who are becoming good but not there yet. So because this happens in the first sentence, the reader, in this case the examiner, is automatically hedging their bets here and has already decided that Ella is going to be no higher than a grade 6 writer. Let's carry on. Her eyes glaucous, not the ocean blue we all love. Now that's interesting. So glaucoma is a disease of the eyes. And so when I read this, I had the image of disease in my mind. But when I look it up, I find that glaucous is a dull greyish green or blue colour. Well, that works perfectly with the description of blue here, that used to be a wonderful ocean blue and is now dull. So it is the perfect word. However, it's a word that the examiner is unlikely to be familiar with, just as I wasn't familiar. And the examiner, like me, would know glaucoma. And the danger is they'd think this is a word that's not being applied correctly. Here it really is. It's a fantastic use of the word, and I will steal it for my vocabulary list. They are faded blue, as if her eyes have seen too many nightmares. That works brilliantly. So does the colon to introduce an explanation about what's wrong with her eyes. And then the single word sentence, emptiness, also works brilliantly. Still in search of a dream, in search of an anodyne to her tormentous circumstance. Well, again, we've got a very difficult set of vocabulary choices here. So this is something that's really difficult for you to understand when you're first beginning to get good at writing. These words are straight out of a thesaurus, and Ella has actually used them utterly correctly. So anodyne is a pain-killing drug or medicine. And so, yes, she is after some kind of pain-killing to the emptiness and pain that she feels. Tormentous, not a word I've ever heard before, is actually a word in the dictionary which means causing torment or torture. But the note here is that it's rare and dated. Microsoft is so suspicious it doesn't even think it's a real word. That's how rare and dated it is. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is your first job as a writer is to communicate with your reader, and it's no good you having a fantastic vocabulary if your reader doesn't understand it. In this case, an examiner's going to get to the use of anodyne and tormentous, not look them up in the dictionary, and think, well, actually, you've just used these words incorrectly because of the earlier mistake up here with was and the very strange use of encapsulating. So although glaucous, anodyne and tormentous are brilliant vocabulary choices in terms of their complexity, They're terrible choices in terms of actually helping your reader understand what on earth you're saying. Then Ella moves on to a quite brilliant metaphor. She's falling apart at her seams, somehow managing to hold herself together. The reason it's brilliant is that she extends it here. The threads that are frail from years of resewing and reusing are hanging on. So we get this idea that she's holding herself together over time, despite this torture and the many setbacks in her life. But we've reached a moment now in her life when those strategies are no longer working. They're in their last breaths. So we have some brilliant figurative language, some imagery with this extended metaphor. Fantastic. However, we then get what's called a mixing of metaphors. So these threads now have breaths. They've now been personified like people, and that doesn't quite work. It's just confusing to the reader. It feels like a lack of control, which is why you won't get above grade 6. At any moment, the young girl, it seems, could come apart. Brilliant, that goes back to the earlier extended metaphor about sewing. So this is great writing. But then we have another mixed metaphor. Either erupt, well now suddenly she's a volcano, which just doesn't fit with this image of her being some kind of second-hand piece of clothing, which is coming apart at the seams. In that metaphor, she's helpless, whereas a volcano, of course, is incredibly powerful and able to destroy others rather than be destroyed. So the volcano image really doesn't work here at all. It goes against everything that Ella's written. She wants to get the idea across that when these seams split, it might let her true self out, letting her soul flow freely, or she could crash and burn. So this is brilliant. This coming apart of the seams might not be the tragedy that it appears. It might allow her greater freedom, or it could actually turn out to be tragic. So starting a piece of writing like this is fantastic because Ella has set up this brilliant tension which forces us to make predictions about what might happen. There is another issue with this, of course. She could crash and burn is a very 21st century phrase, and it's also quite colloquial. It's a cliche, we've heard it loads of times before, and it doesn't fit with the old-fashioned language that we've had elsewhere. It just sounds wrong. The main reason to reject it, of course, is that it is a cliche, a phrase we've heard loads of times before, and so it's lost its value. So we've seen many features in here which are worth grades 7, 8 and 9, but because the writing isn't consistent and it doesn't communicate clearly all the way through, it's still going to be limited to a grade 6. So I'm going to rewrite this, keeping as much of Ella's writing as possible so that you can see how to move up the grades. Her face tells a captivating tale. I've still kept the idea of the alliteration, but I've changed it to the T's in tells and captivating and tale. And I've introduced this idea that whoever's looking at her can't take their eyes off her, which I think is what Ella meant up here. Her eyes, glaucous, no longer ocean blue. I don't have to write that this is a blue that we all love, because ocean blue does that for us. No one would look upon that as a negative description. They are faded blue, as if her eyes have seen too many nightmares. I don't really need to say that she's seen too many nightmares in one night. And in fact, if I do say that, it suggests that what's happened to her has been very recent, which doesn't work with the extended metaphor down here, which suggests that it's been happening over a period of years. So I've got rid of in only one night. They stare, still in search of a dream, in search of an anodyne to her torment. So I've changed tormentous to a word that every reader will know, and then the reader isn't going to think that anodyne is something that's been used incorrectly. They'll look at that and think, oh, that's a splendid vocabulary choice. I wish I understood what it meant, but I'm going to give the writer the benefit of a doubt here. I've kept the idea of the repetition that she's got in search, and I've added to it the sibilance of stare, still, and search. Sibilance is always sinister or peaceful. Here it reflects the character's yearning for peace, the anodyne that's going to stop her torment. This section is exactly as Ella wrote it, I've changed reusing to reuse. It's just a little bit more fluent. And remember, I couldn't have onto their last breaths because it was a mixed metaphor. However, I still want that idea, but I've got to keep it within the same metaphor of sowing. So they now threaten to fray. That then links brilliantly with the other bit of extended metaphor that Ella gave us. And now I've got this final metaphor which didn't work at all. So I've had to rewrite that so that it's still an extended metaphor. So I've turned it into a simile here, which picks up the ideas that are in the earlier metaphor through the word ripping. So either ripping like a shed skin, that keeps the idea of this person being ripped apart that we had in the sewing metaphor, and I think it also works with the idea of torture, having your skin ripped, that we had up here with torment. However, it takes that torture and looks at it as something positive. So instead of the skin being torn, it's now shed, like a snake or a reptile sheds its skin in order to get a better skin. So this becomes a simile, an image of hope, and then that's contrasted, not with the cliché, she could crash and burn, but with the skin tearing like a wound instead of being shed. So hopefully you can see how my similes and metaphors now work with Ella's choice of metaphors. And I've got something that stays on the same theme with the same ideas all the way through. Hopefully you're asking yourself, how would I revise from this? Well, the best way is to try and write your own version of the paragraph Ella and I have written from memory without checking, and then go back and compare it to both, and exploring the differences in your writing will show you whether you're making the same mistakes as Ella, and also whether you're using some of Ella's brilliance in your writing. Ella also said, this is something I would like to remember for an exam. So she wants to be able to use this character description whatever the question, which also answers this. You're going to take your paragraph and learn it so that you too can use it to describe any character in the exam. If you'd like more videos showing you how to become brilliant at writing, check out ones appearing on the left and the right now. See you soon on my channel.